crack out of the chaos.
Hi, business owners. Phase 3. Woohoo! But do your customers know you're back? Well, that's where the Clarence Bugg Show and Pelican Broadcasting can help. Right now, we've got great rates on advertising packages to help you get the word out. Shoot me an email at bugsclarence@gmail.com. Or better yet, call me up. I'd love to talk with you. 225-485-6839. Let's get together and make Phase 3 the best it can possibly be.
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
Getting a letter from the IRS that you owe back taxes can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. Call Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040 today. We'll help stop garnishments, levies, and seizures immediately. With over 35 years of dealing directly with the IRS, our team of local professionals will help you pay the least amount possible. So if you owe back taxes to the IRS, you need help. Call the tax professionals at Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040. Your go-to tax relief.
Hello and welcome to another week of the Roger Cador Show. Clarence Buggs along with the coach, Roger Cador. Coach, how are you, my friend?
Life is good.
Yes, sir, all the time. We continue our theme of old radio days where the hits just keep on coming. And to start this week's show, we have the privilege, the pleasure of opening the show with number one, a gentleman that everybody is familiar with, but it's particularly gratifying for us because he's a homeboy. He is one of us. He is a Louisianian, the legend that he is, but he is so typical of small town Louisiana and the guy that, quote, has done good. Coach, if you would, introduce your first guest for today.
Yeah, and he's also a guy that didn't forget where he came from.
That's right.
And that's so important because people who get to the top of the mountain sometimes forget where they came from. And our guest today is Doug Williams, who was a NFL quarterback, now is the senior advisor to the president of the Washington football team. Did I say that right? I don't want to say Redskin. I got it right. Doug, how are things going? Can you tell us a little about your new role with the Reds?
Yeah, I can. I've been fortunate, Roger. And hello to you too, Clarence. Man,
Thank you,
go
Doug.
way back. I've been fortunate. I've been all over the franchise from the personnel side of it, coming in as a senior consultant, been the senior vice president of personnel, being a player there, and now I get the pleasure of working with Jason Wright, who is the first black president in the National Football League, which says a lot. And when he first got there, him and I had a long talk. Coach Rivera came in, and he wanted to make some changes. But one thing Jason wanted was for me to come and work with him because we felt like we got a lot of work to do with the name change. We're trying to find a place to build a venue and the branding. So he felt like by me being a part of the organization and doing the things that I've done and been there for the last 7 years, he thought it was just a perfect match for me to be his senior advisor. So I took him up on it, and we talked about, longevity. And, people always say, when you going to retire? It's hard to retire when you have fun.
Very difficult to do that. You have a really good advantage. You've been a player in the locker room on the high school, college, and professional level. You've been a college football coach. So with 75% of the players in the NFL being of African-American descent, you have a distinct advantage of being able to sense some of the things that are going on. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, I've I've been fortunate, like you just hit the nail on the head, Roger. You know, and most of the guys, I would say over 80% of the guys that are in that locker room was not white or black, but especially black guys in there that I have a pretty good rapport with. And usually when something's not going the way that they wanted to go, or it's not the way the coach wanted to go, a lot of times they come to me and ask me would I talk to so-and-so. And then sometimes on their own, they'll stop by my office and we'll just chop it up. And it ain't all about football. You know, it's about real life. And the one thing that I always try to do is to be honest with them and straightforward and let them understand that football ain't a game no more when you get to that level. It's a job. It's a business. And they got to understand that.
Well, it certainly is a business, and a big business to go with that. I just saw where you all, NFL is about to sign a $2 billion contract going into that next deal. I mean, that is really huge because what happened this past year, they didn't have any fans in most of the stadium. So now the owners can recoup some of the money that, you know, that they didn't get to make this year. What are some of the new things that you know are on the horizon that we could look forward to seeing?
Well, I think 2020 threw a monkey wrench in everybody's plan, and what it did, it made everybody adjust. Even me, you know, from a technology standpoint.
Yeah.
You know, this Zoom thing and Team Microsoft, you know, was really something new to me, and so much business has been done on the internet, on the computer. I mean, every meet that I've been in the last 3 months has been on the computer, you know, but you get a chance to see everybody get a chance to talk. I think what it does is make some adjustments for the coaches and for the people who work with for the organization. Now, they know that they was pretty much successful in 2020 through the technology part of it, and I think they're going to go into this season through a little caution. I don't think we're just going to jump into it and say we're back, because we're not back yet. So I think that's one of the things that'll be important, you know, the testing. I mean, I took a test. I think everybody in the building took a test for about 190.
190?
Very cautious.
Really?
Very
Yeah.
cautious about, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You couldn't come in the building until you fill out the little sheet and go take your test. And every night you got your results back at 9 o'clock at night and things like that.
Wow.
Right. Doug, I got to ask how you feeling today after Jackson State broke that 7-year losing streak to Grambling this past weekend, and on top of that, they end up beating your former G-men in Grambling in Robinson Stadium. How you holding up after that, big guy?
I tell you what, I slept pretty good Saturday night. I woke up pretty good, you know. I hated for that to happen, you know, but when you look at that thing, you know, you see what Deion has done. I like what Deion has done.
And it's good for the conference, right?
We had opportunities. It didn't happen, and that's the game of football. But I think what Deion has done is put a little spotlight on the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Now, I'm just hoping that all the other schools open up. Now, I'm not saying it ain't but one Deion Sanders in the world.
Right.
And I'm not saying you got to go out and get a guy from another school or whatever. I think what we got to do is put a little more emphasis on what needs to be done at our schools and give a lot of more guys opportunities to coach that know how to coach, that went to those schools. But you got to give them something to work with. But Deion has brought the light into SWAC, and I like that.
I'm going to throw some names at you, Doug. Hazel Bugs, Mr. Lockhart, Mama Lloyd, Mrs. Bennett. What do you remember most fondly about growing up in Cheneyville, Louisiana?
What about your mom in the cafeteria?
Oh, yeah, Hazel Bugs. That's her.
Somebody had to feed us, you know. That's where it started. Hey, man, you know, when I look back, and even with Raj on here, man, I think about Rosenwald. And, you know, I watched Roger coming up as a younger guy playing baseball, even when he played basketball at Southern. You didn't think I knew that, how Roger?
Yeah.
But we talk about,
go ahead.
Talk about Lockhart and all the people that was at Cheneyville during those days, man. I would never, ever forget about Cheneyville and Zachary, Louisiana, where I went to high school and elementary school, all the way up. Coach Curtis Allman, Bernard Lucas, Fred O'Bass, Barney Jones. That's a place I would never forget and will always be dear to me.
Yeah. You have always been a driven individual, playing at Grambling, Tampa, Washington, and of course your career now as an executive. Where did that drive in Doug Williams come from?
I think I was fortunate. I grew up in a very, very competitive household. My oldest brother, Robert, probably has more responsibility for me being who I am and what I became, because he was one guy that was on me day in and day out. I thought he was just didn't like me at one time. You know, he coached me in baseball, and he didn't treat me like he treated the other boys.
Right.
You know, I would be in the field, and he would hit me 10 more balls than he hit everybody else. And he would make me work harder than everybody else. And I didn't understand that at a younger age.
Right.
But now, as I look back, you know, I can honestly say that if it was not for Robert Williams, I don't know actually where I would be right now.
Louisiana per capita has more NFL products than any other state. Why do you think that is, Doug?
Well, I think, you know, especially football, baseball, you know, when it comes to sports, I think Louisiana, for a small state, has done exceptionally well. And then when you talk about football, you talk about the number of quarterbacks that came out of Louisiana.
Right.
It's truly amazing. The guys that played football in the National Football League that came out of Louisiana for a state so small. You know, but I think Louisiana as a whole is, you know, they say it's sportsman paradise. They're not just talking about going out to the lake or to the pond fishing. They talk about everything when they talk about sportsman paradise.
Yeah. Are there any things that immediately come to mind when you hear the names Eddie Robinson and Joe Gibbs?
Well, you know what? When those two guys, let me say this too. You know, I give my oldest brother all the props in the world, ain't no doubt. But I was fortunate enough to go to Grambling, and so people don't know this, but Roger, I really wanted to come to Southern.
Really?
And I'm gonna tell you what happened on that one was what's my coach's name? God, I can't think of his name. He was there before Bates got there. I think you probably know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Robert Smith.
But anyway, his wife was my math teacher in high school up at Cheneyville, and he was the head coach. But before signing day, Southern fired him and brought in Charlie Bates.
Wow.
And Charlie Bates came in with a bright idea of running the
wishbone, yeah.
And wasn't nothing wish for me to be running the ball. That wasn't my ability. And then my mom had a chance to talk to Eddie Robinson, but I think it was a done deal anyway, because when you talk about Leroy Carter, Henry Dyer, Robert Williams, the Bennett, the Shanklin, everybody in my neighborhood had gone to Grambling. Plus Albany Jones and Fred O'Bass. But my mom talked to Coach Rob late one night, because, you know, we had that party line, and it was hard to get through. We had about 11 party lines, and you couldn't get through that during the night. And Coach finally got through, and he got to my mom. My mom woke me up, and she told me that I was going to Grambling. I didn't understand how my mom gonna tell me where I'm going. I said, why am I going to Grambling? And she said, Coach Rob said, you're gonna go to class, you're gonna graduate, and you're gonna go to church. And I couldn't argue with my mom. Probably, other than birth to me, it was probably the best decision my mom ever made.
Wow. So what comes to mind immediately when you hear the name Joe Gibbs?
Coach Gibbs, let me tell you, man, we have a very, very person I just talked to. He just called me the other day, you know, relationship. And he was the only coach in the National Football League when I was at Grambling that came to Grambling to see me work out.
Wow.
He was the only coach. And he was in Tampa when I went there.
Right.
And the first week, I set out the first week. When I came into camp late, the quarterback coach was hollering at me once. And Coach Gibbs ran all the way down there and told him, don't holler at me one more, don't holler at me no more. And after every practice during that training camp, after we got through with 2 days, I went home with Coach Gibbs. Coach Gibbs took me home with him every night, sat at his table with his wife and his 2 boys, blessed JD's heart, ate dinner. He put me in his car, brought me back before curfew. He did that until the season started. And when the USFL folded, Joe Gibbs was the only coach to call me to come back to the National Football League. So, you know, when you think about this thing, Coach Gibbs and I, you know, have a real great relationship.
Well, that says a lot because, you know, back in the 70s, obviously, must have been by 78 when you were playing with Tampa, and the coach was hollering at you. Coach Gibb understood something. He wasn't hollering at you to help you get better. He was yelling to discourage you, probably. You got me? You know.
Yeah, the guy he was hollering at, I don't want to call his name, but I probably would agree with you.
Yeah, you know. So I understand. I've been down that road. I want to go back to your brother Robert, though. You talked about the influence he's been with you. You know, Robert used to come and pick me up in the summertime and take me and play baseball with him.
We talked about that.
Yeah. I mean, you know, that's amazing because I remember how hard he used to be on you, too, when you were young. But he was trying to help you. He wasn't being ugly. He was an extension of what your daddy couldn't be there for you. Your daddy had to work, and Robert was there. And he took that role of a father, motivating that child. You got me? And that's the way I looked at him, man, because he helped me.
Yeah, as I got older, I understand exactly what you're saying. And, you know, unfortunately, this week, you know, I'm on my way home, and fortunately, you know, Robert's going to turn 80 years old this week, man.
Wow.
And like I say, not only I've been blessed, but our whole family's been blessed. You know, my dad is not here, my mom not here. So when you talk about the person who's the matriarch for the family, it's Robert Williams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not only for us, but anybody's neighborhood, Robert has always been the same way. If he saw it's something you want to do and he can help you, he's going to help you. You know, so I look back on it, man. I'm appreciative of what Robert does for me and a lot of other people around me.
Well, Doug, I know you're busy. We want to really say thanks for taking out of your busy schedule to sharing some wonderful information with our listening audience, because a lot of people wanted to know what you were doing, and they know you are a local hero. So keep up the good work, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate y'all having me on. Y'all have a good day.
You too, Doug. Take care, my friend.
All right.
Boy, that is literally the classic American success story. I mean, you come out of Cheneyville, Louisiana, back in a still somewhat turbulent time in our country in the 70s, go to a small college up in the red clay hills of North Louisiana, and you end up as a Super Bowl champ and MVP, and now senior advisor for the Washington football team in the National Football League. Only in America, Coach.
Only in America.
Only in America. Yes, sir. First break of today's show. We'll get that done, and we'll talk more as we continue week 13 of the Roger Cador Show. Stay close.
Got termites? Get Premier Pest. PremierPestServices.com.
Hey, Coach Roger Cador here. There's something about teamwork that brings the best out in any business. When I need a tow, I call Roadrunner Towing. Roadrunner's 4 generations strong and homegrown right here in Baton Rouge.
Thanks, Coach. There's no job too large or too small. Call Roadrunner for quick, reliable, exceptional service. We don't want an arm and a leg. We just want your toes. And remember, take time each day to be a blessing to someone. Thank you.
Looking to get some keys made, locks rekeyed, or a wide variety of new and used safe? Then look no further than the trusted choice of Alfred Safe and Lock, conveniently located off of Government Street in Mid-City, Baton Rouge. Trust the expert locksmith at Alfred for all of your residential, commercial, and industrial lock and safe needs. Trusted by Baton Rouge and me, Roger Cador, to protect what is yours since 1946.
From appetizers, pasta dishes, and entrees, La Contea takes pride in preparing all the Italian cuisine we know you love. Enjoy live music every Thursday through Saturday from 6 to 9, happy hour weekdays from 3 to 6, and brunch on Sundays from 11 to 2, as well as dinner portion-sized lunch specials for under $10. Visit our website to view our menu and book a party or meeting in our large banquet room. Once you try La Contea, your Italian dining will change forever.
Caught spiders? Premier Pest Services.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Roger Cador Show. A lot of us didn't think it was going to happen. There was a lot of consternation, a lot of doubt, a lot of speculation. But we ended up actually watching a football game in A.W. Mumford Stadium this past weekend. Did you think they were going to be able to pull this thing off, Coach?
Well, I felt they had a chance when they went to the spring. Mm-hmm. And they were able to play their second game.
Right.
And they hadn't had any issue with the virus.
Uh-huh.
So, let's just see where it takes us, They didn't win the game. I'm sure that's not a big happy thing for Coach Odom.
Yeah. I got to tip my hat to the crowd that was in attendance because I was there. And I'm going to estimate, I'm bad with numbers, looking at a crowd, judging the size, but my gut tells me it was anywhere from 10 to 12,000 people there. And they all abided by the social distancing recommendations. Folks were there, everyone was masked up, and it just felt like nobody wanted to be that guy or that person that messed it up for everybody else. You got to tip your hat to the Jaguar Nation for caring enough to do it the right way.
I agree. Anytime you can get your fans to do it the right way, you're on the right track.
Yeah. And I can only imagine what it meant, particularly to those seniors, to get the opportunity to play one more time in Mumford Stadium.
I didn't think about that. That's right. There are seniors. It's all over for them.
Yeah. Now, they obviously, because of the NC2A rules and regs surrounding COVID, a lot of them could have the opportunity to come back for that additional season. But when you're talking about scholarship limitations, some may have military commitments, others may have job offers. You never know what's in a young person's future. So for them to be able to take advantage of that, particularly under these circumstances, as trying as it is, that's something that after all is said and done, you can tell your grandkids about years and years from now. When they look in the history book and say, what was this COVID thing all about? I know you played football. Were y'all able to play? That's something that when people bend over backwards to make accommodations for you, you don't forget that too soon, do you?
I agree with you, Clarence. I never looked at it from that perspective, but it makes sense the way you elaborated on it.
Well, we have some highlights, and we will roll that as Coach and I continue our conversation. Both the two top quarterbacks for the Jaguars struggled. When your two top quarterbacks struggle, it usually makes for a long day, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, where you go from there? If your first one struggle, especially at this level, there are just not that many quality position player like that available.
Right.
Because the big schools are having problems finding them.
Yeah.
You know, so quarterbacking, it's like a brain surgeon. There ain't many of them.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't want, if you have to have brain surgery, you don't want number 3 brain surgeon on the list to be the one performing the operation, do you?
You just put it together. Don't want that happening.
But on top of all of that, fourth quarter, the Jaguars still had the opportunity to win the game. Says a little something about the character of these young men that at one point down almost 29 points, they didn't fold up the tents.
Well, you know, Coach Odom will never allow that to happen. I mean, he's going to fight, make them battle to the end, and that's what they did. I mean, you know, when you get so far down sometimes, it's difficult to come back.
Yeah, and a lot of folk may not realize that Arkansas Pine Bluff has an entirely new coaching staff, a new scheme, and some new players. Is there anything tougher from a coaching standpoint to prepare for than a team you know absolutely nothing about?
Yeah, you know, especially in that sport, you don't know anything. That could be a little frightening, you know. So, and they obviously got some transfers in because they did quite well against Southern, you know.
Yeah. What does your gut tell you, Coach? What is the caliber of, and I know you're not privy to all the inside specifics, but when you look at the individuals that probably opted out because of COVID, you look at the individuals that, because it was spring football, for whatever reason weren't able to play, what caliber teams did we see on the field as far as what we have become accustomed to seeing from Southern and UAPB as opposed to what we saw Saturday in the COVID-19 environment?
I think you saw about what they have. They were pretty competitive on against each other. So I don't think they had too many players who opt out. Mm-hmm. You know, I know Southern, I don't think did. So I think what you saw is what you're going to get.
Okay. Next week, before we get to that, right now, after losing your only game at home for the entire shortened season, Alcorn opting out, so you're only going to get one game at home. Everything else now is either on the road or, same thing, a neutral site on the road. Is this the time where you find out what you're made of?
Well, yeah. What else, other choice you have? I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it
is. The
is.
rest of the game's going to be away from home.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And we got to strap it up and go play it.
This week is an off week as they get ready to hit the road to start the rest of the entire season on the road. Is this upcoming week where you've got that off week, that bye week before you start this travel and road show, is this make or break for this team, Coach?
Well, I don't want to say that, Clarence, because I don't know the team.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know the league. I mean, there's a combination of what you have and what does the league team have.
Right.
So, you know, I don't want to say one loss or two loss shouldn't make or break you because you could still win the other games.
Yeah. The starting quarterback, Ladarius Skelton, continues his up and down and back up again and back down again career. Typically, from a coaching standpoint, have you found inconsistency to be more mental or physical?
It could be both. I mean, it's
depends
not
on the
one.
individual.
Yeah, it's depend on the because again, at the amateur level, which is college, you're going to find more inconsistency.
Right.
Because even in the NFL, when you're not dealing with the elite quarterbacks, you find inconsistencies.
Yeah.
So that's basically what it is. Remember, we talked about there ain't many quarterbacks brain surgeons. There's just
Right.
a whole bunch of them out there.
Yeah. Now, if we could just figure out a way to combine a quarterback and a brain surgeon, then we might be on to something. That's a different show for a different day. I did notice that Ladarius Skelton, starting quarterback, didn't handle a particular situation in the game well. He was roughed, should have been a flag thrown. The young man ripped his helmet off. He lost his cool and bumped into the guy, got a 15-yard penalty. So Coach Odoms said, okay, you come over here with me and you watch from the sideline because you're already struggling. Now you're costing us negative yardage. Lo and behold, next day, Ladarius Skelton tweets on social media that this might be it for me at Southern. I may be retiring early.
I really don't even want to discuss that. I mean, this is what...
In a case like this, social media is the worst thing in the world, isn't it?
Yeah. This is why I don't want to... This is what's happening. This is what we have in America today. This kind of foolishness.
Yeah. I mean, if you did something wrong, take your lumps like a man, and I apologize to my teammates. I shouldn't have lost my head, shouldn't have lost my cool. It won't happen again. I'll do better in the future.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't.
But you don't air your laundry out in public on social media.
I don't want to deal with this.
So I can just about imagine, had you pulled the picture because of a bad performance and you find out he's on social media, yada, yada, blah, 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 that probably would not have been a particularly pretty picture. All right, we need to get this break out of the way. When we come back, the hits continue to keep on coming. A name that a lot of folks from Major League Baseball will remember. That's up next on this week's edition of the Roger Cador Show. Stay close.
Getting a letter from the IRS that you owe back taxes can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. Call Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040 today. We'll help stop garnishments, levies, and seizures immediately. With over 35 years of dealing directly with the IRS, our team of local professionals will help you pay the least amount possible. So if you owe back taxes to the IRS, you need help. Call the tax professionals at Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040. Your go-to tax relief.
Hi, I'm Hurricane Betsy Barnes.
And I'm Dr. Kay Siller with The Rocket Right Show.
We are two busy blondes on the go showing off life in Louisiana.
Watch us on Pelican Sports Network.
And Talk 107.3 FM. Check local listings for times.
Hello guys, it's Debbie. It's time. I've got a brand new location. 10510 Airline Highway, Baton Rouge, next to After 5 Tuxedos. We have the perfect spot to get all your wedding and formal wear needs. Come see our one-of-a-kind name brand and get great prices. With 30 years experience, the best customer service anywhere. It's Debbie's Bridal, Airline Highway, Baton Rouge. See you soon.
Surprise, something good has finally happened in 2020. Yours truly, the Clarence Bugg Show, gets to be with you every day of the week. That's right, 11 to 12 every weekday. And of course, the Exiles right in front of yours truly from 10 to 11, yours truly 11 to 12. So now it's appointment viewing. 5 days a week here on the Pelican. The Clarence Bugg Show. The only thing missing is you.
Break out of the chaos.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Roger Cador Show as we head into segment 3. Coach, if you would, once again, do the honors for our viewing audience at home on the guest who has very graciously consented to give us some of his valuable time today.
Yes, today we have one of those great right-hand hitters who played in the American League and the National League, and was a number 1 draft choice by the Milwaukee Brewers. His name is Gary Sheffield. Gary, how are you today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I just got back from this tournament, working with my kids and making sure that they get the things that they need to try to hopefully, turn their careers into something special. They want to go out and be baseball players, so I want to let them fulfill their dreams. So that's why I'm out here.
Well, they're fortunate to have you with your wealth of experience playing at the amateur and minor league and in the big league, so you have a lot that you can teach them. Also, you came out of that Tampa area where you played under legendary coach, Coach Reed, right?
Yes, Coach Reed, he used to follow all the kids when we was growing up, watching our progress and see how we was getting better. And by the time we get to high school, he's seen us all our lives, so he knew exactly what we needed to do to get to the next level. And he was the coach that allowed us to be ourselves and play the game the right way and learn from the best. And it paid off for us.
I tell you, when I became the head coach at Southern in 1984, one of the first calls I made was to Coach Reed. I wanted to talk to him because I knew he had produced a lot of players who had signed professional contracts. And I was thinking, I said, he's got to have some players who also probably will go to college. I did get a couple of kids out of the Tampa area, but that was one in the highlight of my career, is to talk to someone who had influenced so many people's lives. And I wanted to be a part of that. Let me ask you a question. I did some research on, as it relates to right-hand hitters. Since 1970, there hadn't been many right-hand hitters to win batting titles in the American League or the right. You were one of them in 92, I think. You won a batting title. Tell me why you think that's so.
Well, that's all due to, I call him Pops, which is named Tony Gwynn. I was able to watch him on a daily basis. I got traded to the San Diego Padres from the Milwaukee Brewers, and he heard all the things that they were saying about me, but nobody mentioned my talent as a baseball player. And when I became a Padre, the first thing he did was he pulled me to the side, and he wanted to get to know me as a person. And when he got to know me as a person, he knew I was a hard-working guy. I was dedicated to my craft. And he just knew how to bring it out in me. We went in the cage, worked on a lot of different things. I understood my why. Once I understood my why, the rest became easy. And I owe all of that gratitude and for me, my coming out party to Tony Gwynn.
Well, you had a good attitude because Milwaukee drafted you as a shortstop. Am I correct?
Right.
Then you went to third base, and then you played outfield. No way a person with a bad attitude is going to take all of those adjustments in their career without complain and make it. Tell me why you were able to make these adjustments.
Well, I knew I could play all these positions. My granddad always brought me in Doc Gooden and Dwight Gooden up on being a good teammate. And he always used to overemphasize, and I use the word overemphasize it, is when the subject didn't call for it, that's the one thing that he talked about, is being a good teammate, being accountable to your team, and being responsible to your team. All a coach can do is put you in the lineup, but it's what those other individuals that you play with, what they think, and then what they think about playing with you. Can they trust you? Can they count on you? Can they depend on you? And once he instilled that in me as a player, that's all I played the game for. I played the game for my peers, and I wanted to be accountable.
Well, certainly you were. You hit in your career 509 home runs, I think, which is a whole lot. And you had a action with your bat that was unique. Can you explain to the listening audience why you did that? Because it was unique.
Well, as we know, everybody likes to be really mechanical and think about mechanics, foot on the ground, make sure I get the ball out front, make sure my shoulder is not doing this. I was activating my hands. I always wanted to make sure my hands was ready to hit. And I picked that up. I used to hold my bat pointing towards the pitcher, but I didn't move it because I wanted to be able to step to the pitcher and kind of slow my bat down because I used to get there too early. And so I was messing around in rookie ball, and I started moving the bat, and I wound up hitting 10 balls out in a row.
Wow.
In practice. And when I did that, I said, wow, you know, that felt comfortable. It felt natural. I didn't have to work hard at doing it. And when I took it in the game, I wound up hitting 2 home runs in the game. And I started doing it all the time, and it just seemed like my rookie ball season just took off. I was seeing the ball good. I didn't care about the velocity. I still was hitting everybody, and I was hitting balls out of right field, center field, left field. And I just said, this is my style. And once I started working on it, it became mine. And I mastered my craft.
Wow. Gary, looking at your stats, you racked up way more than your fair share of numbers as far as being hit by pitches. Of all the guys that plunked you, any of them stand out as far as guys that if you never get hit by this guy again, it won't bother you at all because this guy throws a heck of a hard ball?
Well, the kid Smith, he used to pitch for the San Francisco Giants. You know, out of all the times I've been hit, that's the only one that hurt. Actually, 2 that hurt. The left-hand pitcher, Kent Merker or whatever, with the Braves.
Right.
He hit me on my shin, and I had a big old grapefruit-sized mark and swellness to it. It lasts all off season.
Wow.
And those are the only 2 that really hurt. The rest of them, you know, I would absorb the blow. I knew how to move out the way. I knew how to catch it and kind of give into it a little bit because I hit so close to the plate.
Right.
I basically took the inside part of the plate away from the pitcher, and I dared them to come inside. And so a lot of pitchers, you know, that has egos and machoism and things like this want to prove themselves that I'm going to be the guy that do it. And a lot of times, you know, the pitch get away and they wind up hitting you. So I try to teach that to a lot of younger kids is that hitting closer to the plate, it eliminates a lot of thinking about a lot of different things. I don't have to cover both sides. Basically, I cover one side of a plate. And a lot of people don't have the courage to do it, but I encourage kids to hit closer to the plate.
Unfortunately, as you are well aware, Gary, we as African Americans no longer play the game of baseball in numbers that we did in years past. If there's a parent or parents watching right now and their young kid has shown some talent in the game of baseball, but you know, you got the peer pressure for basketball, the popularity of football. Best advice you could give to a parent who has a child showing some promise in baseball to encourage them and help them see their child make a career in the wonderful game of baseball?
Well, I'll start by saying, number one, they don't want you in the game. That's number one. That's a fact. They don't want us in the game, and it don't start later on in life. It starts in youth baseball.
Right.
If you're not already polished and a great player, then they're not trying to teach you to become a great player. They're not trying to help you become a great player. They don't allow you to get on the field and make the same mistakes as all the other kids are making, and then you learn from it, and that's how you get better. I would encourage all parents to seek a program with the right coaches around your kid that cares about your kid, because you could be on a team that's winning or losing, and if your kid is not getting what he needs to be a baseball player. He's just taking up a spot until they tell him to take the uniform off. I get phone calls all the time from kids from New York, all over the country, that want to be in my program, and they're making the concessions to move here, send their kids here, and getting the tutelage from guys like myself and a couple other major league players that I have. And we get these kids on the right situation. I deal with it with my own kids. It's hard for me to get my kids, once they leave our program and have to play high school and all these other things, they're exposed to the same problem. They play with us, they win MVPs, they win tournaments. They play with them, they become average players, they become timid players, because we're talking about a bunch of coaches that don't know the game like we know the game, and teach the game like we teach the game.
Right.
So these kids are in a battle of, how do I play this game? My coach wants me to do this, and a professional athlete want me to do this. But when they with the professional athlete, there you see their best come out. But when you see these guys with these coaches in high school and abroad, they just average players, and it's just your surroundings and all of that. All of those things are important, because as we know, baseball is a mental game, and if your kid at a young age he ain't mentally developed yet, or hearing 3 and 4 different messages, he's going to be a confused baseball player.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So for parents that don't know, Gary, what should they look for in a coach for their kids?
What they should look for is a coach that understands that just because I don't play the game no more and I'm 40, 50 years old, I didn't forget that the game is a hard and difficult game. All coaches get upset. All coaches get, say things and do things when a guy make a mistake. What you should do is you should explain to him what mistake he made and tell him what he should have done.
Right.
Opposed to getting upset about it. And that's what I see a lot of coaches, and I see a lot of people, and I call these people a front-run people. If you ain't producing for them and hitting home runs and catching every ball for them, they'll turn on you, and then they go look for somebody else to replace you. And that's what you have.
And I guess with kids being what kids are these days, it's probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's probably a lot more important that you try to reach them now, because kids are different from when Gary Sheffield was a kid growing up and playing the game, correct?
Absolutely. We just had this conversation about kids are right now kind of kids. They want everything to happen overnight. What we teach at our practices, we start our practices off with fundamentals for 1 hour straight. And we do it every day, just like brushing your teeth. And a lot of kids don't like that part of practice because it's boring.
Right.
But what that does is it's developing something, and it's creating muscle memory. And when the game starts, they don't realize they got better. But when situations come up in the game, and they already know what to do, and if they have to make an adjustment, if it's raining or if it's muddy, they've already been prepared for that. And they didn't even realize it because they was like, man, practice is boring. But these are the things that allow that kid to not be flashy, not stand out, but he does everything correctly. And those are the kids that people look at the most because they make the least amount of mistakes.
Well, I tell you what, Gary, you shared a wealth of information with the parents who are listening to our show. Unfortunately, we're up against the time, but hey, listen, I tell you what, I'm going to come once COVID-19 gets a little more under control. I'm going to come and visit your site over there in Tampa because I want to see what you're doing. No, I try to move around now that I'm retired. I want to move around and go to places where what you're doing so I can spread the word to other people in other parts of the country so they could help kids. You got me?
Yeah, it's much needed. I even when I'm coaching and playing against other teams, if I see a kid make a mistake and I see the coach yelling at him without giving him instructions, I would take the time out to say, with all due respect, that I say something to him, and I would explain the situation to that kid, even if he's on another team. because I look at it as, yeah, we want to win a baseball game, but I don't care about no trophy. I don't care about all that. We're about trying to make players and people better, and that's what this is about.
That's right. I appreciate it, big guy. We'll be talking later, okay? Thanks so much.
Okay, you got it.
Okay,
All right,
Gary.
Take care, Gary. That's, I hear a lot of common traits between you as a great coach and Gary as a great player / coach. A lot of the things he said are things that you've been preaching for a while now, Coach.
Well, it's universal. If people wanted to, who knows the game,
Right.
We do it. We teach a universal language.
Yeah.
And the kids need to know that they're going to make a lot of mistakes. You know, I was at a perfect game tournament at Traction this weekend.
Right.
And I sat there and I watch them, people and some coaches, and these kids are young.
Yeah.
Tell them what they're not doing right. You know, but one of my former coaches is coaching one of them, and I heard his post-game talk. And he talked about the things that made sense to the kids.
Right.
Because the kids were saying, certainly if we did this, we would have had this outcome.
Right.
They understood. So I'm just so happy that the language he heard from me is in his heart.
How big an impediment to that taking hold in the game are parents?
Well, parents play a key role. They all want their kids to be successful, but you have to give the kids to a good coach and trust that the coach is going to give your kids something that'll help them become better.
Right.
Now, all of the kids ain't going to go and make a mom a lot of money.
Now, you know all kids that play are major league material, Roger Cador.
If we had 1,000 kids this weekend, maybe 5 might sign pro. Maybe. It's just
on a good year.
On a good year, you know.
Yeah.
Even they talk about Dominican, all the kids who make the big league out of Dominican. But they don't talk about all the Dominicans that fail.
Yeah.
That's a whole bunch of them that fail.
And one of the things that you've said countless times that has stuck with me is that baseball is the only game that is predicated on failure.
It's predicated on failure.
Yeah.
Predicated. That's why the good scouts look at the people who accept failure. They can understand it.
Yeah.
You know, there was a guy by the name of Reginald Martinez Jackson. It's Reggie Jackson. And he
Mr. October.
He knew he would strike out a whole bunch of times. He didn't worry about it, but he was looking for that one pitch that he knew. And that's why he called himself Mr. October. In October, he came to life.
That's it. I remember the World Series, 3 trips to the plate, 3 swings, 3 home runs. Mr. October. Final break of today's show. We'll come back and wrap it all up. Week 13 of the Roger Cador Show. Stay close.
Okay, Marty. We have it.
Got termites? Get Premier Pest. PremierPestServices.com.
Looking to get some keys made, locks rekeyed, or a wide variety of new and used safe? Then look no further than the trusted choice of Alfred Safe and Lock. Conveniently located off of Government Street in Mid-City, Baton Rouge. Trust the expert locksmith at Alfred for all of your residential, commercial, and industrial lock and safe needs. Trusted by Baton Rouge and me, Roger Cador, to protect what is yours since 1946.
Surprise, something good has finally happened in 2020. Yours truly, the Clarence Bugg Show, gets to be with you every day of the week. That's right, 11 to 12 every weekday. And of course, the Exiles right in front of yours truly from 10 to 11, yours truly 11 to 12. So now it's appointment viewing. 5 days a week here on the Pelican. The Clarence Bugg Show. The only thing missing is you.
Hey, Coach Roger Cador here. There's something about teamwork that brings the best out in any business. When I need a tow, I call Roadrunner Towing. Roadrunner's 4 generations strong and homegrown right here in Baton Rouge.
Thanks, Coach. There's no job too large or too small. Call Roadrunner for quick, reliable, exceptional service. We don't want an arm and a leg, we just want your toes. And remember, take time each day to be a blessing to someone. Thank you.
Caught spiders? Premier Pest Services.
I'm sick of time.
Welcome back to the final segment of today's edition of the Clarence Bug Show. Boy, Coach, since the last time we were here, a hornet's nest erupting at our state's flagship university with the Title IX situation. LSU's got a lot of work to do, don't they?
Oh, they have a lot of work to do, and it's just terrible. Nobody could have known it was that bad, and it's not good. And I just think this is a classic situation where they use student athletes, a coach did, to win football games. He got paid well, and then with those young ladies, I mean, it's just not good.
Yeah. It is a situation that it's going to have some pretty far-reaching ramifications. I mean, Les Miles has now been put on administrative leave up in Kansas. The folks at Oregon State now are looking at F. King Alexander. I saw one writer wrote, "We now start to wonder if F. King was running from LSU or running to Oregon State." It's not a pretty picture. Real quick, Coach Primetime, Jackson State gets their first win, beating Grambling. That's great for the conference.
It's his second one.
Well, yeah, they got the forfeit from Alcorn.
No, they beat Edwin Waters.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
that
first
don't count.
game.
It's Edwin Waters.
Okay, well, I got to
better
make sure.
beat Edwin Waters.
But he's counting it.
Their first SWAC win. I should
There
have said.
you go.
Yeah, that's great for the conference.
Yeah, they did a good job, and Primetime is really a good fit for the swagger right now.
Yeah.
The things that he's doing could help other teams.
Yeah. 30 seconds left. Southern baseball sweeps Grambling. That's always a good way to open conference play.
Yeah, and I went out there for 2 games this weekend, and I think Southern has got a chance to do well in the conference.
Were you tempted to snatch your coat off with that Southern jersey and run down to third base?
Under no circumstance. I stayed as far away as I could.
In the words that he told me before, do I look like I miss coaching?
Do I look like I miss coaching? Tell me.
You look happy, you look contented, and I would have it no other way. On behalf of our entire crew, floor director extraordinaire, Mighty, he's the coach, I'm Clarence. We'll see you next week with another exciting edition of the Roger Cador Show. Till then, go Jags.